Kia ora koutou. Hello everyone, tagaho. Welcome to Agile in 7. This is where we shoot videos to talk about almost anything Agile in around about 7 minutes. My name is Andy and I'll be your host for this video. Today's topic, we're going to talk about how to manage dependencies. When we talk about dependencies, many of you will think about as something that is expected, you can't avoid it, it ought to happen. It has many layers. Often they are very coupled with listed dependencies after dependencies. They are somewhat complicated, hard to manage, and it creates a lot of anxiety and uncertainty. Well, that's true, and true. But it doesn't have to be that way. So let's do some deep dive and think about how can we manage our dependency today. Before we deep dive into the how, let's think about what causes dependencies first. In general, there are two general areas where dependencies will cause. One is the organization. Now, while one organization may focus on forming teams based on a particular function, so these are functional teams where they are focused on one particular function and therefore cross-functional is not really their thing. And depending on the industry, some company had regulators that heavily regulate on the separation of duties and therefore they're not really allowed to form that cross-functional team anyway. That's one general behavior. Another general area that we talk about is the complexity of the work. So the skills required may be very complex or require high degree of training and cross-skillings in the team that they may not have the time to do or the investment to upskills. Or just simply the solution where they manage is very large, very complex, that is almost impossible to know everything, to manage everything in the system that they can self-manage. These are the general causes of dependencies. So you might ask, why is it so important to manage this dependency anyway? Why do we have to manage it? Well, to put it in the simplest term, if you don't manage your dependency, work don't really get done in the time that you need it, therefore often a constant delay to the release, therefore your customer will miss out, they'll be unhappy, ultimately you're losing business opportunities. Here are some of the ideas that I have based on previous experience. Let's have a deep dive. In general, let's understand there's two ways of dependency. We've got the upstream dependency and the downstream dependencies. Upstream dependencies are work that you require someone else to do first before you can start your piece of work. And here are my ideas. Idea number one, split the work. Often a piece of work is too big and you know that there's dependencies in between that. The idea is to break the work down into smaller pieces, focus on the work that you can do first, wait for the dependent party to finish their part before you pick up the next piece of work. In which case, you're not carrying a big story that's going to stuck in the middle as a bottleneck. Idea number two, do it yourself. Offer the opportunity to upskills, work with the dependent team to learn their skills, and also support them to create some sort of guardrails so you can do it yourself without having to trouble them and also do it safely. Idea number three, adjust the scope if possible. Now, focus on the outcome. Do we really have to do that particular task to achieve a similar outcome? Or can we adjust our scope a little bit so we can still achieve the same outcome without having to trouble the dependencies all the time? May work, may not, but worth thinking about. Idea number four. Well, if none of the ideas suggested so far is applicable to you, let's fall back to the basics method. People interaction. Working closely with your dependent team, highly communicate and highly articulate the requirements, working closely with them. Ask them to invite you to their planning so you can plan the work together, no surprises, and get the work done that way. So these are my ideas and experience from the past around managing upstream dependency, where the work requires someone else to do before you can start yours. Let's look at the other way, downstream dependency. Now, downstream dependency is someone else rely on you to finish a piece of work before they can start. There's ways to manage that too. Idea number one, automation. Automate everything that is frequently asked, reasonably low risk, reasonably repetitive, reasonably consistent. Examples such as provisioning an environment, integrating code, deploying code, regression testing. These are the things that once you establish the process, they're reasonably accurate, reasonably low risk, reasonably consistent. Now these are the things that you should really automate. because once you automate it, that dependency is virtually eliminated. So your colleagues going to thank you for that, your team's going to thank you for that, because really there's no dependency to manage once you automate a piece of work. Idea number 2, make it self-service. Think of it like a vending machine where you create that capability for someone else's self-service. In this case, the dependent party get to upskill themselves, you have very little to manage. In saying that, you do want to create some sort of guardrails and support information so teams can help themselves without causing too much of a problem while they're learning. And also, save your time, save the team time to manage the piece of work. So it's a win-win, really. Idea number 3. Now, should none of these ideas suggest so far as possible to you, let's go back to the basics. People interaction. Again, standardize that process where you can easily communicate with your colleagues, plan to work together, has a way to truly articulate the requirements so there's no confusion. Invite your colleagues to your planning so they get to see how the plan's being worked out and when is the schedule. In that case, there's no surprises and you can help each other out as a single team. These are my ideas or previous experience around how to manage dependencies. Hope that works for you. Should all these ideas or some of these ideas been applied, a good scenario would be multiple teams working like a single unit, highly communicated, there's no surprises, all have a shared common goal, and then you can use this data to capture as part of your matrix to articulate how fast the flow is going to go when everything lines up together versus having to stop-start waiting for one party to finish their part before someone else can pick that up, losing momentum. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoy what you're watching, please put a thumbs up to like it and put some comment in this video. That will give us some great feedback on how we can improve ourselves and keep our community going. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.